Hello. So I'm doing this for myself. I want to speak better. I want to speak more clearly. I want to crack interviews. I want to get a placement. So this is just me. So I will be going through case studies. Case studies are very important. They are widely asked in interviews. BCG, McKinsey, and many consulting firms often ask for case studies in their interviews. So I'm new to this. I've never gone through a case study. It's my first time doing it. So let's go through it one step at a time. I'll share my screen. Great. So yeah. So this is a official case study given by BCG, Boston Consulting Group. It is titled as the Climate Case Challenge. Let's go through this challenge. Want to know what to expect from a case challenge when applying to Boston Consulting Group? Try this example and incorporate the tips presented into your approach. Note, BCG is not tracking or scoring candidate responses. You are welcome to go through the case study multiple times. It should be like that. Let's start. Introduction. Our client is a global consumer goods company. The company's products include a wide variety of personal care products. The example, hair care, skincare, cosmetics. Okay. The client CEO feels strongly that a company needs to develop a plan to reduce its environmental impact and do its part in the fight against climate change and has engaged BCG to help her create a business case for setting a science based target to reduce the company's impact and determine what initiatives to undertake to achieve that target. Okay, so by the introduction, we know that some company, their client, has approached BCG. They sell a wide spectrum of personal care products that include a variety of hair care, skin care, and cosmetic products. Now, the CEO of the company feels that they should reduce the environmental impact that their products have because we all know that the climate change is a wide phenomena, and with increasing pollution, global warming, we have to do our part against climate change. And they have approved BCG to find them a science-based target, a science-based program, or a science-based procedure that can help them achieve their goal. Context. Science based targets provide a clearly defined pathway for companies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, helping prevent the worst impacts of climate change and future proof business growth. Definitely, we all know that some procedure which is scientifically backed will definitely prove to the help achieve our final goal. Now, in our case, scientific procedure can help the company reduce global gas emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. Targets are considered science based if they are in line with what the latest climate science deems necessary to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, above pre industrial levels, and pursuing efforts to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay, now our target is in accordance with the Paris Agreement, which states that the global warming should be limited to 2 degrees Celsius and the pre-industrial levels and pursuing efforts to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. I don't exactly know what this line means. So I'll take the help of ChatGPT. I'll copy paste the sentence and I'll ask ChatGPT to explain this line to me. It is very important to go through each and every part, in my opinion. This line explains that science based targets refer to goals or benchmarks set in alignment with the most recent scientific agreement of the climate change. Specifically, these targets are designed to help achieve the objectives outlined in the Paris Agreement. Okay. Limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre industrial levels and pursue efforts to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Okay, now this makes me very clear. So there should be a well predefined industrial level. Let's say that it is 25 degrees Celsius, which is also the room temperature. So the Paris Agreement states that we should limit the level to 23 degrees Celsius, and we should try our level best to achieve it by 22.5 degrees Celsius only. Sorry, my bad, 23.5 degrees Celsius, which is also the limit warning. Okay, now let's start. What is important to take into consideration when outlining recommendations on meeting a science based target for a commercial company? What is important to take into consideration when outlining recommendations on meeting a science based target for a commercial company? How the company can benefit commercially by implementing the initiatives, both short and long term, to quantify and highlight the impact such measures would have in the fight against climate change, and both of the above. The first option is a more financial based approach. That would the company benefit by implementing this initiative in short term and in long term? Would the company suffer losses or not? And the second option is to quantify and highlight the impact such measures would have in the fight against climate change. It is more aligned with what the company really wants. And it is stated in the question that it is a commercial company. I think that the option is the both of the above. As definitely, while meeting the social responsibility that we have to account in the fight against climate change, but in the end, it should also be not commercially profitable, I would say, but yes, commercially viable. The company should not suffer major losses. So I think it is both of the above. Okay, so it won't give me answers right away. Oh, it has actually given. Yes, considering both the commercial benefit and being able to quantify the environmental impact are important. Though the financial benefits to company are a primary concern, it's important to help clients think about science-based target recommendations as they might think about entering a new market or launching a new product. Definitely. Which of the following is not an important reason to consider as a business metric when working with science-based targets? Which of the following is not an important reason to consider as a business metric? What is a business metric? A business metric is, I think, some level of threshold that the company has that the company has set, or a parameter that the company has set with science work when working with science based, which is the following is not an important reason. Okay, establishing urgency. The greater the commercial benefit the initiative can showcase, the higher the priority of taking action will be. The first option is urgency. That if an initiative shows great commercial benefit, then should it be taken really fast. The priority of taking that action. Second option is assessing sustainability. Any initiatives taken on by the company must have long term financial gains. Otherwise, it undermines the company's future. Definitely. Everything and anything that we do should be sustainable, which is exactly the second option. Any initiative taken on the company must have long term financial gains. Definitely. Gaining employee buy in. The more employees support the initiative, the easier its implementation will be. Gaining the more employees support the initiative, the easier its implementation will be. Okay. Hmm. So, according to me, I think that The third option is not a very good business metric. I'll justify it, I'll go through it because urgency. I think it's proven that if a science based, proven, it is scientifically backed that going through this action, the initiative, we will definitely achieve commercial benefit, then it should be have some priority. Sustainability. It is with no doubt that I can say that it should be sustainable growth. The growth that we achieve should be in the long term and not in the short term. But the third option, I think that okay, uh, that maybe if I force my employees to do that, it will not be very good. But I think I should not be held back by it. Let's go through that. Okay, so while understanding employee sentiment is one factor to consider in implementation of an environmental initiative, it is unlikely to be a primary driver in making the case for such an initiative. Both establishing urgency and assessing sustainability are better business metrics to focus on when working with science based targets. See, I was right. While understanding employee sentiment is one factor to consider in implementation of an environmental initiative, it is unlikely to be a primary driver in making the case for such an initiative. As I said, that it is very important that I understand the opinion of my employees who will do the work, but it will not be the best primary driver as stated in the solution. Turning to the case study, what's the first step you would take? Okay, develop initial recommendations based on competitors' approaches and find supporting data. Develop initial recommendations based on competitors' approaches and find supporting data. Okay, so I think that option is a very smart option, I would say, because my competitors, they're also, if they're working on the same target, then they would have done some existing research. If that research is somewhat public and open to use, then I can go through that, find supporting data to back that research, and develop my initial recommendations. Okay, now let's go to the second option. Gather as much as relevant information from the client as possible to get an overview of the current status of the company and the company's capabilities. Okay, this option is more feasible to me, is more what like is more appealing to me. Appealing would be a very good word. Gather as much as relevant information from the client as possible to get an overview of the current status of the company and the company's capabilities. Okay, so I would explain an example of AI, artificial intelligence. In the artificial intelligence, we have certain agents, learning agents, reflex based agents, recommender based agents. If someone is a graduate of BTech, then he must know what I'm talking about. So, in all these agents, it is a very important step to know the start state. The start state is the initial state that where I'm standing. Suppose in a game of tic tac toe, the board is empty. That is the initial start state. Suppose I am, suppose my two friends were playing the game, but suddenly one had to run away. Now they have already placed one zero and one x each. Now I'm taking the player of x. So the initial state will be the board and the zero and the x placed in it. If I know the start state, then I know that where am I standing and what I have to do to achieve my goal state. So, in my opinion, the first step would be finding the initial state. You're absolutely right. Best place to begin is to gather information on current status. Our client operates in several different markets globally. I'll just check on the screen once. Perfect. How, okay, so we are given that a client operated several different markets globally. Okay, how would you approach their market reach in this case? How would I approach their market reach in this case? Market reach. Market reach can be defined as the way I can appeal customers. I'll give a simple example. Suppose two companies, Swiggy and Zomato, are selling the same product at the same price, but the customer or the consumer, he knows both sides. He has taken account that both are selling the same item for the same amount, but the final decision that he will choose to order from that site is known as, is somewhat example of a market reach. It is more of trust, but yeah, I'm sorry. That what I just said was market trust. Market reach is something that I can appeal to more clients. Someone doesn't know about Zomato. If I increase my market reach, they'll know about Zomato. This is known as market reach, if I'm not wrong. Please bear with me if I'm wrong. Please forgive me. I think we need to look at each market individually, as regulations around environmental impact vary significantly from country to country. I think we need to look at each market individually, as regulations around environmental impact vary significantly from country to country. I would take a global approach, as sustainability and climate change efforts are a global challenge. Okay. So the first option is that we need to see each market individually, because different regulations around each country to country. And I would take a global approach, as sustainability and climate change efforts are a global challenge. Okay. So I think that it was previously mentioned to us that we wanted to achieve the Paris, what was agreed upon in the Paris Global Agreement. So I think I would take a global approach. Let's see. Climate change is a global challenge, but your approach needs to be strategic and specific. Regular regulations around environmental impact vary significantly across markets. We know that environmental impact regulations are becoming increasingly common, and we expect that trend will continue over the next decade. Okay, so I think I was wrong because it tells me that my approach needs to be more strategic and specific. Okay, I'll take that. But it is also mentioned that the environmental impact regulations have become increasingly common, and this trend continues over the next decade. Okay, what are the benefits of assessing current regulations? Local governments may offer tax credits or other incentives to companies pursuing environmentally friendly efforts, which is vital information for my proposal. Local governments may offer tax credits or other incentives to companies pursuing environmentally friendly efforts, which is vital information from my proposal. Okay, the first option, I'll give you an example to walk through it. So, if you buy an EV, an electric vehicle in Delhi, then a certain amount of road tax or the vehicle tax that is imposed on the vehicle is waived off, because you are buying an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles are generally on the higher spectrum of the market. Like it is more money for the same for a small amount, for a small car. Basically, you could get a bigger car for the same amount of money, but that will run on petrol or diesel, which are not the best fossil fuels that we are dealing currently with. They are perishable, as we all know. They're not sustainable, and we all know that the increasing prices of petrol and diesel can't be kept up with. My recommendations, the second option is, my recommendations must align with current regulations. My recommendations must align with current regulations. Okay. Both aligning with regulations and taking advantage of initiatives is important. Clearly, the answer is both. aligning aligning with regulations, because definitely if my recommendation doesn't align with the current regulation, then I'm doing harm to the company. I'm just giving the government an opportunity to file a case against them. And definitely we should take advantages of what's the initiatives offered by the government. I'll take a small water break. Please pardon. Let's see. It is necessary to adhere to current regulations, and it would be a shame to leave potential incentives out of your proposal. See, I was correct. Therefore, it's important to align with regulations and take advantage of any local initiatives. Let's look at other actors in our markets. What would you take into consideration looking at the competitor landscape? Okay, now it is very important to know the opponent against ours. Again, I'll give an example of AI, artificial intelligence, because I just read that subject recently and it is very fresh with me. So I told you about the initial state, but in artificial intelligence, the agent knows its environment and who it is playing against with. So in the game of tic tac toe, I know that if I am playing X, my opponent is O. Similarly, it is very important if you are going through a winning or losing game in where there is uh, clear clearly defined criteria of winning and losing, then it's very important to know our opponent. So coming to the first option, who are our largest competitors and have they announced environmental impact targets or other related initiatives? Who are our largest competitors and have they announced environmental impact targets or other related initiatives? Okay. Second option, which niche or small competitors are making strides in reaching environmental impact targets and how do their consumers respond? What niche or small competitors are making strides in reaching environmental impact targets and how do their consumers respond? The second option is a very nice option because it could tell us that if even the customers are responding or they are noticing or are they susceptible to what initiatives we take. It's important to focus on both the big market players and the niche actors to have a full understanding of the market landscape. Okay, so the first option is about the big corporations. Are they taking initiatives against environmental change? Are they not taking initiatives? And second, are they making and about the small competitors, whether the consumers are responding to them? So I think it's again best to look at both the big market players and the small competitors to have a full understanding of our market. It is best to understand both the large competitors and the niche competitors, as both tell us different things. Our primary competitors are the direct challengers, but niche companies may find trends and approaches more quickly than large competitors. At the moment, neither of our two large main competitors have announced environmental impact initiatives. Okay, so they told us that we were correct, that we need to both look at the large competitors and the small competitors because they both help us find different perspective about our challenge. Now they have told us what is happening in the current market. So the large competitors have they haven't announced any environmental impact initiatives. But on the other hand, small brands, they are targeting environmentally conscious customers. Okay, very nice. So in a recent trend, if you remember during COVID-19 and all, there was a huge increase in companies selling organic products. A major example is Country Delight, selling very high nutrition pure milk was their main SOP was their main SOPs, but it was okay. That's a very that is that example doesn't align actually because it is more environmental conscious customers. Okay, so if a company is doing something more environmentally friendly, if they're not using certain chemicals that harm the air, river, water, then maybe the consumers prefer to buy from those companies instead of the large competitors who are just misusing the resources and dumping their waste. Which of the following market research conclusions would you not use in your proposal? Okay, first option, as this initiative would set us apart from less environmentally conscious companies, we may be able to convince customers to use fewer products overall. As this initiative would set us apart from less environmentally conscious companies, we may be able to convince customers to use fewer products overall. Second point, as this initiative appeals to customers of niche environmentally friendly brands, there is an opportunity to win market share. Third point, as the first of the major global competitors in the space to set environmentally friendly goals and targets, there is a potential first mover advantage. Okay, so the first option is that it that I think what the first option tells is that if we move to this spectrum where we promote, more environmental friendly things, then maybe our customers would stop using our products or they would use less products because ultimately some each and every product would cause some harm to the environment. So whether it would decrease our total selling and everything. Second point is because is a there are customers who specifically appeal to these such type of brands. There's an opportunity that we could get those customers to our market. And third point, as we are one of the first major global competitors who will move to this space, then we have a first mover advantage. Then and as we are asked to not use in proposal, I think it will be the first one because it doesn't make sense. People will still use our products because I agree that maybe people would stop you use less products overall. It's not about they would stop using our products, they would use our competitors, but they would in general using stop using products more. They would decrease their usage. But I think if we get those customers, new customers, that I think would be a better approach. So I'll choose the first option. Absolutely right. Understanding both our big competitors and the small are important. Our primary competitors are our direct challenges, but niche companies may have fine trends and approaches more quickly than larger competitors. Okay, there was some error, I guess, in the site. I'll click this again because that's the same page again. Okay. Convincing consumers to use fewer products overall is not likely to be a useful market research conclusion. Both winning market share and first mover advantage would be useful conclusions to include in your proposal. Nice. So, as mentioned by me, it would not be the best conclusion that consumers would stop using the products over totally or they would use less products because if they're using them sustainably, that if they need it and then only they use, then they would still consider using them. Pardon me. Well, looking at this data, what do you think is most relevant to the case? I believe it's important to consider the environmental impact of the products I purchase. I believe it's important to consider the environmental impact of the products I change. In 2015, it was 70%, and in 2020, it was 86%. A 16% growth in 5 years. Not bad. I prefer to purchase products that have demonstrated environmental benefits. 47% in 2015 and 58% in 2020. 11% increase. Okay. I am willing to pay more for the products with demonstrated environmental benefits. 22% in 2015 and 44% in 2020. A huge change. It has doubled in 5 years. So, what is most relevant to our case? The number of consumers willing to pay more for environmentally friendly products doubled in 5 years. There is a significant upward trend of environmental awareness amongst customers in terms of what they seek, how they evaluate companies, and what they are willing to pay for. 86% take environmental impact into consideration when purchasing products. Okay, so for every each and every company, primary concern is their financial statement, whether at the end of the day, whether they are in profit or are they in loss. And if we move to initiatives that say, you know, cost us more to make the products, but there is for a doubling of customers who are willing to pay. So I think what is most relevant to us is the number of consumers who are willing to pay more. Let's see. While this is a very strong piece of data, the upward trend of environment data best supports the case. Okay, I was bad. I was wrong here. I was wrong. Let's see why. I will demonstrate that there are multiple consumer trends that would support a greater focus on environmental impact for our client. Now that we have a solid understanding of the market, let's look at a client. Okay, so maybe our goal was not the increasing in profits and everything, that more consumers would buy if we increase our products, increase the range of our products just because we are using more environmentally friendly procedures. But the best piece of data that would support our case was that the upward trend of environment data, the upward trend of environmental data best supports the case. Okay, so more and more consumers are focusing on the environmental impacts. What would you need to know in terms of the company's capabilities? What would you need to know in terms of the company's capabilities? The client's financial status, revenue, profitability, cash in bank, as well as their forecasts. The client's organization structure, as well as the current logistics of producing and selling their products. Neither the financial status or organizational structure are important in light of the company's stated mission. Both the financial status and organizational structure are vital for your understanding of the case. The first option is their cash flow, their profitability, their revenue, and their forecasts, the financial status, to sum it up. And the second is the organizational structure as well as the logistics. Okay, I think both are important. Let's see why. Correct. Understanding the client's financials and their organizational structure are key to providing strong suggestions in this case. Because I think I chose that option. I'll tell you why. Because it is very important that the company can have a growth, have an eco-friendly and environmental friendly growth using their current financial status. Also, there could be many options, a variety of options, depending that they could choose to move to a more environmental friendly location, but that would cost them very huge amount of money. Maybe they are not ready with that much amount of money, but yes, they can choose maybe eco-friendly, uh, eco-friendly raw materials. Maybe they could totally discontinue their plastic packaging and use some sort of paper bag packaging, which could be financially possible. And we obviously, the organization structure is a key for this, because let's say that the company finally decided that they will use paper packaging and not plastic packaging, but the logistics define that it is impossible to get paper packaging in their factory or where they produce their products. Why is the client's financial status important? Okay, what I just said, it answers the question. I'll just find the option. Any new initiative is likely to require a substantial monetary investment from the client. To gauge the impact of an initiative, you need a full understanding of the client's finances, including revenue forecasts. You need to know whether the client can afford BCG consulting services. In order to know the biggest and the most impressive initiative you can recommend, you need to know how much revenue they have available. I think the first option is the best. Correct. In order to give the best recommendations, you must have a full understanding of client's financial strength and weaknesses. Why is the client's organizational structure and logistics important? Again, I told the example of the paper and the plastic packaging. Let's find the option and get that. There are likely to be people in the organization who do not favor your recommendation. It's good to have full knowledge of where decision making power lies. Okay. There may be significant inefficiencies to cut from the client's current supply chain logistics. Any trimming in those areas would allow more money to be funneled towards new initiatives. Does the client have the necessary talent, skill base, and resources to succeed in the initiative? In order to know what a client will need to implement a new initiative, you must understand what they are currently able to do. The first option is more whether the if we provide some consulting final conclusion to them, they would follow it or not. Second is their finding their current finding the current opportunities in their current supply chain. And the third option is whether they could they have the resources, the necessary talent that is required to initiate succeed in the initiative. I think the third option is best suited. Let's check. Absolutely. In order for you to offer a full proposal with high quality recommendations, you need to understand what the client is currently capable of and how they may need to adapt their logistics and current capabilities to be able to carry out our recommendations. Okay, correct. Now let's identify next steps. Pardon me. Supply chain, upstream. Emissions from procured products, transport of supplies, business travel. Breakdown of emissions categories within FMCG industry. Okay. So the 90% of the emissions are produced in the supply chain. From procuring products to the transport of supplies, because obviously for transport we need trucks, trains, planes, which produce a huge amount of CO2. And business travel, obviously, if I have to go somewhere, then obviously I'll take a plane which will produce more carbon emissions. Consumed power, emissions from usage of electricity, heat, and or cooling purchased from third parties. Okay, so if I've set up a plant somewhere, then obviously it would need electricity to run, and that electricity is producing some emissions. Okay, and 4% is operations, emissions from operations under facilities control, including on-site fuel consumption. Yes. So the options are suppliers and methods of transportation of products to a client site, our client's on-site energy usage, equipment, and staff competence. So I think 6% and 4% are very less compared to 90%. So I think it would be the first one that we have to cut down in our supply chain. Indeed, the upstream supply chain has the most opportunity for improvement. Exactly. What would your recommendations be? Source suppliers that use more environmentally friendly raw materials for their products. Switch to lower emission methods of transporting inputs to our production facilities. I would look at choosing new suppliers as well as new transportation methods. Definitely, we need to cut down on both areas, and hence I would choose both new suppliers as well as the new transportation methods. Our client agrees that sourcing new suppliers and switching transport methods are both viable ways to reduce environmental impacts. The CEO wants to explore switching suppliers rather than changing transport methods and provides you with the following information. This data shows cost and pricing after switching to a new supplier. How much will our client cost increase? Okay. Okay. So for the raw materials cost, uh, there is a 1 by 2.5 into 100, 1 up by 2.5. I'll just do maths. 10 by 25 into 100. 4. There's a 40% decrease in raw materials alone, and the transportation cost gets reduced if I choose a more environmental friendly supplier. So I'll just add up. It is 375 here and 450 here. So there is definitely some increase. 375, 450. There's a 20% decrease, approximate 20% decrease. The increase in cost is 20%. If you could choose only one action, which path would you recommend to maintain a client's gross profit? Increase sales volume by 20%, increase price by 20%. Okay. See, we have to maintain our client's gross profit. So it is not exactly achievable to increase the sales volume because if a product, it certainly moves more, it could move more than 20% in a certain financial year, but there is definitely a chance that it will not move as much as 20%. So maybe I'll choose to increase the price. Why did you choose to increase price? Okay. The consumer survey indicates that the percentage of consumers who are willing to pay more for environmentally friendly product is growing. Growing sales volume by 20% is too ambitious and will require substantial investment in resources like new sales personnel or new marketing efforts. A combination of both. Exactly. I think I explained the second option, and definitely the survey, there was a 22 to 44% increase, basically doubling the increase. So I'll choose a combination of both. Focusing on increasing price is a viable approach and will require raising the client's profile among the current customer base so consumers understand why price is increasing, and your suggestions should acknowledge this. Obviously, I can't just increase the price overnight. I can't tell my consumers and my consume clients why I chose to increase the price, because at first sight they will just think that this company has become greedy and they have chosen to increase prices. But if I tell them that why I have increased the prices, I'm moving to a more environmentally friendly approach, then maybe they could think that whatever I'm doing is justified. Is there what matters most to a case study is that you clearly motivate and support with data your suggested choice. Is there anything else you'd like to include in your recommendations? Strike while the iron is hot. If the client makes the initiative now, they may realize some first mover advantage among the major global competitors. Okay. Second option is new competencies will be needed to drive this initiative. The client must show strategic hires, partnerships, or consider an acquisition to in order to procure knowledge and skills required. Definitely, we need to train our consultants that why we are increasing the price. They should be able to justify in front of the buyers that how I'm able to sell my product. The client should put primary emphasis on reducing running costs at their facilities in order to reduce their carbon footprint. Uh, Honestly, I would choose to include all three, but if I have to choose one, I think I'll do the first one. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. This is a strong recommendation and is well supported by the data. Striking while the iron is hot and sourcing strategic assets are both excellent final suggestions of case study. While reducing running costs is not borne out by data and does not strengthen your case. Exactly. Drawing insights from the data is a vital part of a case and will be expected of you. Thank you. Now they'd like to know a little bit more about me. Okay. I'm currently studying at Vellore Institute of Technology. I'm in my third year. I'm taking up computer science and engineering for my bachelor's degree. I currently don't have a work experience. I'm looking for a work experience. If you like me, please reach out to me. What is your primary work area of interest? Business building and incubation, business operations, data science and analytics, design, finance, legal and risk management, marketing and communications, people and HR, product management, consulting, research and insights, technology and engineering. So, right now I'm very invested in data science and analytics. So, I'll choose this option. Okay, this is uh, pretty much boilerplate. I'll just fill it out. Results. Let's see how did I do. Okay, so they have given a very good understanding of how I dealt with. We are excited you are interested in BCG. At BCG, we believe in the power of data to drive good decisions. Science based targets are undeniably good for the planet, but they are good for businesses too. Working on a case such as this follows a fairly standard set of steps, and it is important how do I explain my approach and finding supporting and quantifiable data for all your recommendations and hypotheses. Want to do a deeper dive? Okay, that is pretty much boilerplate. This is again tips. Okay, they took me to their main page. They didn't exactly give me a consolidated result. It's okay. But yes, that was a case study. That was the first case study that I ever read. It was nice. And thank you. Bye.